The Flopsy Bunnies. Benjamin Bunny was a little brown rabbit and was married to another rabbit called Flopsy. They had a large family and they were always cheerful. They had 6 children who were called the Flopsy Bunnies. Sometimes when the family didn't have enough food, Benjamin would borrow cabbages from Flopsy's brother, Peter Rabbit, who had a small garden. Peter Rabbit would lend cabbages to Benjamin whenever possible, but one day Peter had no cabbages to spare. The Flopsy Bunnies were quite hungry, so they went across the field near the ditch outside Mr. McGregor's garden. They found some jam pots and paper bags and mountains of chopped grass from the mowing machine, and some rotten old shoes. Little further, oh joy, they found a lot of lettuces. The Flopsy Bunnies feasted on the lettuces for a really long time. Then their tummy was full, and they burped happily, and they got a little sleepy. Then one by one, all the Flopsy Bunnies fell asleep on the grass. Then slowly, Benjamin Bunny started to feel sleepy too. He covered his head with a paper bag and then fell asleep. The little Flopsy Bunnies slept delightfully in the warm sun. From the lawn beyond the garden came the distant clackety-clackety sound of a lawnmower. The flies buzzed around, and a little mouse ran around among the jam pots. The mouse rustled the paper bag, and Benjamin Bunny woke up. She apologized profusely for waking Benjamin and said that she was friends with Peter Rabbit. While she and Benjamin were talking, they heard heavy footsteps above their heads, and suddenly Mr. McGregor came and emptied out a sack full of lawn mowings right on top of the sleeping Flopsy Bunnies. Benjamin shrank down under his paper bag. The mouse hid in a jam pot. The little rabbits smiled sweetly in their sleep under the shower of grass. They dreamt that their mother Flopsy was tucking them in a bed made of hay. Mr. McGregor looked down after emptying his sack. He saw some funny little brown tips of ears sticking through the lawn mowings. He stared at them for some time, wondering what they were. But then a fly sat on one of them, and it moved. Mr. McGregor climbed down onto the rubbish heap.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits,
said he as he picked them up and dropped them into his sack. The Flopsy Bunnies dreamt that their mother was just turning them over in bed. They stirred a little in their sleep, but they still did not wake up. Mr. McGregor tied up the sack and left it on the wall. He went to put away the lawnmower. While he was gone, Mrs. Flopsy Bunny, who had remained at home, came across the field. She looked suspiciously at the sack and wondered where everybody was. Then the mouse came out of her jam pot, and Benjamin took the paper bag off his head, and they told the doleful tale. Benjamin and Flopsy were in despair. They could not undo the string, but the little mouse was a resourceful person. She nibbled a hole in the bottom corner of the sack. They pulled out the little rabbits and woke them up. Then they stuffed the empty sack with some vegetables and an old brush. Then they all hid under a bush and watched for Mr. McGregor. Mr. McGregor came back and picked up the sack and carried it away. The Flopsy Bunnies followed at a safe distance. They watched him go into his house, and then they crept up to the window to listen. Mr. McGregor threw down the sack on the stone floor and called out to Mrs. McGregor.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rabbits,
said Mr. McGregor. Hey, what's that? What did you say? Inquired Mrs. McGregor.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little fat rabbits,
repeated Mr. McGregor, counting on his fingers.
1, 2, 3.
Don't you be silly. What do you mean? Asked Mrs. McGregor.
In the sack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rabbits,
replied Mr. McGregor. The youngest Flopsy Bunny climbed on the windowsill to watch what was going on. Mrs. McGregor went near the sack and felt it. She said she could feel something, but it did not feel like a rabbit. Then Mrs. McGregor untied the sack and put her hand inside. When she felt the vegetables, she became very, very angry, and she scolded Mr. McGregor. Mr. McGregor got very cross, too. One of the rotten vegetables came flying through the kitchen window, and the youngest Flopsy Bunny jumped down. Then Benjamin and Flopsy and the little bunnies went home. Next Christmas, the little mouse got a present from the rabbit family. She got a real rabbit wool cloak with a hood, and a pair of warm mittens to keep her warm throughout the winter. The end.